Thank you, my man. Thank you. Appreciate that. How are you? Excellent. The baby boomers are headed toward retirement. So many people are letting go. They seem to think achievement time is over. I'm here to tell them it's time to grow, so resume the boom. It's time to rock and roll again, resume the boom. We'll rock and roll to the very end, resume the boom. We still have our dreams, sweetheart, restart, resume the boom. For way too long I've been headed toward the exit. For too long now I've forgotten to be me. For way too long I've looked for strength in others, when all along I had the strength in me. So resume the boom, sing it. I swear I'll never grow old again, resume the boom. We still have our dreams, sweetheart. Thank you. Thank you very much for indulging me on that, and thank you to Bryant for lending me that guitar so I could share a little musical moment with you. What I want to talk with you about today is obviously small business, but in a context of what does it really mean? Why is it so important? How do we make it work for ourselves? Because there are lots of different definitions of small business. I had the opportunity, privilege actually, a couple of years ago to interview more than 120 self-made millionaires. It was part of an audio series I was producing for the National Speakers Association called Voices of Experience. And then I had a radio show for a short while that was connected to all that. And I found that this, by the way, is Westlake Village, California. That's where I live. There are 5 traits that you will find in self-made millionaires that you don't find nearly as often in the non-self-made millionaire category. If you look at it, every one of them, and think about the people you know who are mega successful, they're absolutely intentional. Whether they're successful as a performer, they are intentional about the sound setup, about the way they play, about how they dress, where they stand, all that kind of thing. You know, those killer performances we see on the Grammys are absolutely second by second, surgically intentional. Business can be that way. Not that you can't be spontaneous, but you ought to have thought through each of the things you know you're going to do again and again and again and again and again, and refined it to a science where it becomes habit pattern for everybody. Would you agree with, could I get an amen to that? We're south of the Mason. Good. I love being south of the Mason-Dixon line. You know, something I've noticed in the last few days, there ain't nobody stood up here and just talked Texan to you. You know, there's a whole bunch of people, they're talking Brit, you know, rock and Irish and all these other things. We got all these accents up here. There ain't one or soul said, you know what, it's just darn good to be back here. How are your mama and them? How y'all doing? You know, I like it. I grew up in Little Rock, Arkansas, so I feel like I'm home. It says voracious students of success. What I mean by that is the thing that I noticed in all these mega successful people was that they wanted to learn everything. It didn't matter if it was in their field or not. They were just curious as could be, and they were seeking whatever worked. Hey, what worked for you? Know, obviously this is going pretty well. What are you doing? You know, they're curious, and they were almost intrusively so. But it was pleasing, not abrasive. Number 3 is the biggest one up there. They would willingly change themselves in order to become successful. Now, I'm not saying you should try to change your nature. If you're an acorn, you're going to be an oak, not a redwood. You can go to redwood camp. You can read Power of Redwood Thinking. You can say, I am a redwood, great and tall. My mighty branches shelter all. I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. You know, you could do that. You're still going to be an oak, but a really insecure oak. So figure out what your nature is. Figure out what kind of seed's inside of you and nurture your nature. Do what you do best. Do what you're naturally suited for. And I guess would be a better word. Also, be willing to change your habit patterns. Be willing to change your point of view, your mindset. Be willing to re-examine what you believe is so, Because it might not be. You know, we get to different phases in our life. We have to kind of reshuffle the whole thing and say, gosh, is that how it works? I had no clue. I thought, you know, and that's a sea change for people, right? So these are people that are eager to do that. They're willingly do that. And they also were, in every case, an eternal, unstoppable optimist. You know, they would say, that is a big problem. Let's find the solution. Instead of, that's a big problem, oh gosh, I guess it wasn't such a good idea. No, they figure there's a solution somewhere and they're going to find it. So they just stay the course, right? And then absolutely committed to doing whatever's necessary to succeed. Those were the traits that I saw most frequently. See, the biggest part of running a business is running you. Because if you can't get you to do what needs to be done when you don't feel like doing it, you're not ready for success yet, right? What's the operative phrase in that? When you don't feel like doing it, right? So what causes sales to increase? There are two things that if you measure these two things every single day, if you track them, you have a chart where you're tracking these two things, your business is going to be far more likely to succeed. One, the number of contacts you make with people who could buy from you. And two, the frequency with which you talk with those people about how you can help them. If you track just those two things, how many people have I asked to buy today? How many people have I talked with about what we really could do for them? I'll guarantee you that'll keep you on the right path. The way to structure all this when you're looking at how do I need to re-examine me and make me more effective is look at what they used to call the CASH formula, K-A-S-H, knowledge. What do I know and need to know in order to get to the next step? What are my habits, my attitudes, and skills? It's K-A-S-H if you go in a U shape there. Knowledge, attitude, skills, and habits. So that's just a way to think about them and, you know, put them into kind of a checklist for yourself. Because the main thing in running a business is getting the thinking right, because the behavior follows the thinking. You get your thinking focused in the right way, you get your daily habit patterns of mind usage right, then everything tends to fall in place. I like this concept. The essence of intelligence, if you want to be intelligent about anything, the essence of it is making distinctions, noticing more about it. In any situation, the person who notices the most about the situation will see the most possibilities. And the person with the most possibilities usually wins. So in any situation, just say to yourself, okay, if I want to know more, I need to start noticing more. What can I notice about this? Take a look at this for a second. What do you notice about that photo of the rowing team besides the white shirt, which kind of jumps out at you? What do you notice? One person doesn't have the oar in the water. What is the other oar in that person's hands doing? It's submerged. So you got one person out of the group of 8 who's got his oar underwater, or hers, I can't tell if it's a man or a woman, and the other one right across from it is just, one's underwater and one's just barely out of the water. Everybody else seems to be in perfect sync. Is this going to affect their competitiveness? Absolutely. Does it really matter that much? It's just one oar. I mean, really, it's just one oar, and it's in the middle. It's not even on the leading or the following edge. Does it really matter that much? Absolutely, it matters that much. So the more you notice, the more you know where to intervene to make things better, okay? So here's how things work, at least as far as I've been able to see over 40 years of working with 3,000 different audiences around the world. And I've been blessed to work in virtually every industry you can imagine. I've noticed that the way things tend to work is the mindset, and I apologize for the colors on this making it hard to see, but the mindset that you embrace, the way you look at your business, your customer, your coworkers, the way you look at your suppliers, whether you look at opportunities and challenges, colors the actions you're going to take. The actions you take result in the habits you form, because actions repeated become habits. The habits you form are your reputation, because we're known by our habitual behaviors, right? Okay? Your reputation determines which relationships are available to you and which ones are not. Uh-oh. So, you're saying if I build the right reputation, I open doors? Yeah, absolutely. Or close them, depending on the reputation you build and the target you've got in mind. And the future, the size of your future, absolutely depends on who you are able to connect with at the levels you need to make those connections. Yes? Okay? This would be affirmative. This would be, okay, I'm just playing with you. All right? So you can go either direction. You can say, okay, here's my dream. There's the future I have in mind. This is what I see for myself in the future. You start with the future, and then you start asking questions. Okay, if that's the future I want, to get to that level, who am I going to need to know? I don't mean just know, but have them say, oh, great, you're here. And they open the door, right? In other words, it's not who you know that counts. It's not who knows you that counts. It's not who they know that counts. It's who's glad they know you. So if we get into the business of making other people glad that they know us by delivering the kind of things they value, then we start opening more doors to ourselves. And we open more doors. If we've got the right reputation, we can actually go in. And if we don't have the right reputation, we at least know which habits would lead to that reputation, or which actions would build those habits, or which mindset we ought to sustain day to day and have those little sayings in front of us and that self-talk and those other things going on to keep the mindset that generates the actions that become the habits, that cultivate the reputation, that opens the relationships to make your future possible. Does that work for you? Good. The future you see, the way you envision your own success unfolding over time, tells you what kind of person you need to be. Just walk back down that causation chain and you can see exactly what to do. So how would the person I'd like to be do what I'm about to do? That's a good question not only for an individual, but for a company or an organization. So let's say you're the person in charge of the Small Business Festival for next year and ongoing. So you ask yourself, how would the Small Business Festival organization do the sort of things we're going to be doing next? And you start behaving as the oak you're going to become instead of the acorn you used to be. Use yourself as a role model. I think we ought to cultivate a culture of problem solvers or problem solving in our organizations. This is my grandson's business card. My grandson, when he was 10 years old, he's 15 now. When he was 10 years old, I said to him, I've got something for you. And he said, what's that? And I said, your birthday gift, here it is. And he opens it up and it's a box of business cards, that one. And it says Jason Cathcart, and I gave him his own email at cathcart.com, and I dubbed him Problem Solver. He said, what is this? I said, it's a business card. What's a business card? 10 years old. And I explained what the business card was. This was at his school. I went to his school and between classes gave it to him. His mom's a teacher there. And so Jason said, I do what with a business card? And I told him, about how people exchange these. And he says, well, what's the problem solver? I said, well, I've noticed something about you. I've noticed you are thoughtful. And that's an advantage. That's what Matthew calls the introvert's advantage, introvert's edge. Introverts tend to be more thoughtful. And Jason is that way. But he's an outgoing guy, friendly, and interacts with other people well. But in every situation, he seems to be like half a step back going, more than other people. And so he always said, well, have you looked at that from this side? Oh, there's the solution, right? So Jason is a problem solver by nature. And I wanted to cultivate that. So I gave him these business cards. And then I went on my way. Well, at the end of the day, I called his mom. And I said, so what happened after I left and Jason took a look at his business cards? She said, oh, my God. Every kid in the school has one of his business cards. Really? Now, I want you to think with me for a second. You're the grandparent and you're trying to cultivate the right mindset in this youth, right? You give him the business card and he's got a box of them and he's already understood that this is for giving to other people, right? So he goes up to a classmate and he says, look at this, my grandpa made these for me. What is it? It's a business card. What's a business card? Who's explaining what a business card is? He is. How many times that day? About 50. So by the end of the day, he is so totally aware of what a business card is and so absolutely clear on what it means to be dubbed a problem solver that his mindset will never again be the same for the rest of his life. And it's self-inflicted. I had 2 minutes with him, and for the balance of the day, he's changing himself. Love that. Love it. So create a culture of problem solvers. This is a photo of the opening ceremony of the USA Special Olympics, where there are 13,000 people in the audience. It's in Lincoln, Nebraska a few years ago. And the athletes are coming in, and they're going to light the torch. And 13,000 people are there to support 3,800 athletes, special athletes. It's the Special Olympics. I came in with the Arkansas delegation, about 75 of them, and I was so proud to be part of that. And I was the featured speaker for the opening ceremony, so it's a humongous, big deal privilege for me to have that honor. But when you think about that, all 13,800 people in the audience understand that they are there to make life better for these people. That their whole point in creating and participating in the Special Olympics is to reinforce the self-esteem, give a moment of joy to these athletes, and inspire others through their example. Every organization that remains constantly aware of their why becomes continually better at their how. Every organization that is constantly aware of their why will become continually more effective at their how. It's not corny to talk about how you help people. It's essential. It's vital. In my business, which is a training and development business, I've got over my copier machine at home on the wall our mission statement. And for years, what it used to say was our mission is to develop and effectively market an ever-improving line of top-quality business services for business professionals in the areas of sales, management, human relations. Yeah. I mean, doesn't that just, no? Well, one day I asked Susie in my office, she was my assistant, and I said, Susie, what's our mission? She says, it's that thing that hangs over the copier. No. What is it? What does it say? She said, I don't know, it's too long. Aha. Teach the teacher, right? So I went back, tore it up, and came up with a new mission statement. Figured, get it down to less than one sentence. And I said, our mission, make life better for people. Make life better for people. ... Profitably. You said, wait, whoa. You know, the greed monster just crept in. No, I want you to think about this. Any organization that does not generate a profit is forced to stop doing the good they do. Yes? Okay. You got to make a profit. That's how nature works. If there's not the life force coming in, there cannot be a life force going out. Right? So our purpose for our business is to make people's lives better profitably. And that's an honorable thing to do. And when we're doing it, we need to recognize that there's a whole lot more than just us doing it. We need to use all our strength. This is my friend Carl Klessig. Carl was climbing one of the Grand Tetons, Tiwanaut, that day. And let's see if that's the pointer. No, it's not the pointer. Anyway, when you look at Carl, I want you to notice he's got his helmet and he's got his backpack and all that. What else do you notice besides Carl and the mountain and his gear? How about that? What is that? Yeah, but what's the nature of that rope? And it's tight. So in other words, at the other end of that rope, something that matters is hanging on for dear life. So what Carl does next could absolutely affect the life of the person on the other end of the rope. In this case, a guy named Andy Watson. Okay? 15 minutes earlier, it was the other way around. Carl was at the bottom of the rope and Andy was above. There's always somebody on the other end of your rope. And you're always on the end of somebody's rope. I think we should be conscious of that more often. I think we should intentionally think about that. And that was one of the things I talked about first, intentionality. I think we ought to intentionally review why our business exists, what's our mission, how do we really help people, right? and we ought to talk about it. We ought to tell stories. And when something we do really does well for somebody and it just touches their heart or solves their problem or whatever, we ought to tell those stories. And we ought to collect them so that we tell them over and over again over the years. Because the new employees come in, they don't remember. They don't know about that. We just assume it's known. It's not known. It's not organic. You've got to renew it all the time. It's like nutrition. You've got to have more food coming in every cycle, right? So the more often we are intentional about articulating how we help the world, the more often we are intentional about remembering who's on the other end of that rope, the more we will behave as a connected team, a unit, and the more we will take the nobler path. We'll do things better. We'll come at it from a higher level. If you look at statistics on giving, on charitable giving, $350 billion with a B dollars in charitable giving goes into the flow every year in the United States. $350 billion. Where does it come from? 5% comes from corporations. 5. 15% comes from charitable foundations. 80% comes from individuals. $350 billion, and the vast majority of it comes from generous, singular individuals. And the reason they give, cited again and again and again, the same basic reason, not the same words all the time, passion for the cause. They believe in the purpose that they're there to fulfill. So how do you grow a small business? Get a big reason, a great big why, and talk about it all the time, and get everybody sold on that. And if they're not sold on that, help them find a new job opportunity. And go find somebody who will get sold on that. And then you don't just get their behavior, you get their heart and soul. They contribute themselves fully to the organization. And that makes all the difference in the world. So what's the bottom line? Bottom line is, if you look at Austin through the filter of small business, you'll see the same thing as if you look at Austin through the filter of live music capital of the world. What do they have in common? First off, gigging musicians, that is the purest form of small business you'll ever see. That's me standing on a street corner with a hat on the ground, and I'm playing, hoping somebody's going to contribute, right? That is a small business. And I'll guarantee you those people that are going out there playing gigs, and we talked a lot about the gig economy, which is so much a reality. They know how to make sales calls. They know they have to, and they're constantly going out there eager to create another opportunity to provide the service that they have. You heard one of your speakers today say, I thought that when I got into this business, I'd spend most of my time doing what I'm good at. Well, no, you spend 70% of the time creating the opportunity to do what you're good at. Most of your time is selling, managing, organizing, and then you finally get that little sliver of delivering it as well. I've been a professional speaker for 40 years, literally 40 years, and it's always been me. I've always been the business owner. I'm the main product. Cathcart Institute's the lengthened shadow of Cathcart, this guy. And the whole time, it's been about me looking for people I could help, making connection with those people. In other words, contacting people who can buy, talking about how I can help them, right? So the more I tracked that, the more successful I became. And today I'm enjoying a lifestyle I never dreamed was possible. Well, but I'm still gigging. I'm still looking for individual gigs. I'm still going out and talking with people about how I can help them. And I'm still going to conferences like this and attending longer than I have to as a speaker so that I can soak up some of the knowledge and come home with a whole bunch of new ideas, to which my staff will say, he's been to a conference again. Get ready, brace yourself, everything's going to change. Well, that's just, that's the way it is. But I am just absolutely joyful to be here, and I want to just share another couple of moments with you. Do you have a question or something quickly I could respond to based on what I've been talking about? Anything I need to clarify or elaborate on? Nope. Well, I've got another phase for you then. This one. You know, if only we were a little further south, I could sing this one. In the southern part of Texas, in the town of whoops, we're in Austin. Okay. Do you know that song, Marty Robbins? In the town of San Antone lies a fortress all in ruin that the weeds have overgrown. You may look in vain for crosses and you'll never find a one. But sometime between the setting and the rising of the sun, you can hear a ghostly bugle as the men go marching by. You can hear them as they answer to the roll call in the sky. Colonel Travis, Davy Crockett, and 180 more, Captain Dickinson, Jim Bowie, present and accounted for. Back in 1836, Houston said to Travis, take some volunteers and go fortify the Alamo. And the men came from Texas, from old Tennessee. They joined up with Travis just to fight for the right to be free. Indian scouts with squirrel guns, men with muzzle loaders, stood together heel to toe to defend the Alamo. You may ne'er see your loved ones, Travis told them that day. Those who want to may leave now, those who fight to the death, let them stay. In the sand he drew a line with his army saber of 185. Not a soldier crossed the line. With his banners a-dancing in the dawn's early light, Santa Anna came prancing on a horse that was black as the night. He sent an officer to tell Travis to surrender. Travis answered with a shell and a rousing rebel yell. Yee-haw! Santa Anna turned scarlet, played a guayo, he roared. We will show them no quarter, everyone will be put to the sword. 185, holding back 5,000. 5 days, 6 days, 8 days, 10. Travis held and held again. Then he sent for replacements for his wounded and lame. But the troops that were coming never came, never came, never came. Twice he charged with 2 recalls. On the fatal 3rd time, Santa Anna breached the wall, and he killed them one and all. Now the bugles are silent, and there's rust on each sword, and a small band of soldiers lie asleep in the arms of the Lord. In the southern part of Texas, in the town of San Antone, like a statue on his pinto rides a cowboy all alone. And he sees the cattle grazing where a century before Santa Anna's guns were blazing and the cannons used to roar. And his eyes turn sort of misty and his heart begins to glow. And he takes his hat off slowly to the men of Alamo, to the 13 days of glory at the siege of Alamo. Thank you. Thank you. Wow, thank you. Oh, thank you very much. Marty Robbins wrote that one. That was a powerful song. I want some help on this one. Blame it all on my roots. I showed up in the boots and ruined your black tie affair. I was the last one to know, the last one to show. I was the last one you thought you'd see there. And I saw the surprise and the fear in his eyes as I took his glass of champagne. And I toasted you, said, honey, we may be through. You'll never hear me complain, 'cause I got friends in low places where the whiskey drowns and the beer chases my blues away. And I'll be okay. Yeah, I'm not big on social graces. Think I'll slip on down to the oasis. Oh, I got friends in low places. Come on. Well, I guess I was wrong. I just don't belong. But then I've been there before. Everything's all right. I'll just say goodnight and I'll show myself to the door. Hey, I didn't mean to cause a big scene. Just give me an hour and then I'll be as high as that ivory tower you're living in. 'Cause I like friends in low places where the whiskey drowns and the beer chases my blues away. And I'll be okay. Yeah, I'm not big on social graces. Slip on down to the oasis, 'cause I got friends in low places. Yes, I got friends in low places.
Nice job, brother.
Cool.
So we're here for Jim Cathcart. Stop for a second.
Okay.
So Jim has been here since Tuesday. And he's been involved. And I have to say, he's the most gracious and giving person that I've ever met. So, mate, Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Will you please? Thank you so much, mate.